You have been told a story about Betelgeuse, that it is a dying star, swollen and red, sitting on the shoulder of Orion, and that any night now, it could explode. That story is wrong. Not the dying part, that part is true, and we will get to just how violent its death will be. The wrong part is what everyone has been staring at. For 6 years, the world has been watching Betelgeuse flicker and fade, certain it was watching a countdown. It was watching the wrong thing. Because in July of 2025, astronomers finally caught what had been hiding inside that star's glare for centuries. Something small, something moving, something that has been circling the dying giant this entire time, buried so deep in its light that no telescope on Earth could see it. This is the story of what they found, why it changes everything we thought we knew about the most famous dying star in the sky, and what is going to happen when this thing finally goes off. And by the end, you are going to look up at Orion differently for the rest of your life. Before we get to the thing hiding inside it, you have to understand the monster itself. Find Orion in the winter sky and look at the upper shoulder, the bright red-orange point that does not twinkle like the others. That is Betelgeuse, and it is one of the few individual stars you can identify with your naked eye from your own backyard. Now understand what you are actually looking at, because the scale of it does not fit in a human head. Our sun is large enough to swallow over 1 million Earths. Betelgeuse is roughly 700 times wider than the sun. If you took our sun out of the center of the solar system and dropped Betelgeuse in its place, the surface of the star would not stop at Earth. It would swallow Mercury, then Venus, then Earth, then Mars, and it would keep expanding outward past the asteroid belt, possibly all the way out to the orbit of Jupiter. Every world we have ever set foot on or sent a robot to would be inside that star. It is about 14,000 times more luminous than the sun, and it sits roughly 700 light-years away, which means the light you see from it tonight left the star 7 centuries ago. The Betelgeuse you are looking at is medieval light. And here is the first unsettling fact. For all that size, Betelgeuse is young. It is only about 10 million years old, while our sun is 4.5 billion. Betelgeuse was born long after the dinosaurs died, and it is already at the end of its life. It burned that hard and that fast. A star that enormous lives like a fire doused in fuel, blazing for only a few million years before it tears itself apart. And Betelgeuse is almost out of fuel. Now the part everyone remembers, because it is where the panic started. In late 2019, Betelgeuse began to fade, not a little. Over a few months, this star, normally one of the 10 brightest in the entire night sky, dropped to around 40% of its usual brightness. Astronomers had been watching this star for over 100 years, and nobody had ever recorded it this dim. The dimming was so dramatic, you could see it with your own eyes from the sidewalk. Orion's shoulder was visibly going out, and the world drew the obvious conclusion: this was it. A dying star suddenly fading must be on the edge of collapse, and a star like Betelgeuse does not die quietly. It dies as a supernova. For a few months in 2020, a real, serious part of the astronomical community wondered if we were watching the final breath, if any night the sky was about to detonate. They called it the Great Dimming. And then, just as strangely, the star recovered, climbing back to its normal brightness as if nothing had happened. So what was it? Here is where the story turns, because the answer everyone reached for was wrong, and chasing the real one led us to something far stranger. When astronomers finally pieced it together, the Great Dimming was not the star beginning to die. Betelgeuse had belched out an enormous cloud of dust, a veil of its own material flung off its surface, and that cloud drifted between us and the star and blocked its light. We were not watching Betelgeuse die. We were watching it exhale, and the breath fogged our view. The panic was a false alarm, but the false alarm did something important. It made the entire world turn its best telescopes on this one star and stare harder than we ever had before. And when you stare that hard at something, you start to notice the things it has been hiding. There was an older mystery about Betelgeuse, one that had nothing to do with the Great Dimming, and it had been bothering astronomers for decades. On top of its short, irregular flickers, Betelgeuse has a second, slower rhythm. Every 6 years, almost like clockwork, the star brightens and then fades again. A steady 6-year pulse, beating quietly underneath the chaos, and nobody could explain what was driving it. After the Great Dimming, astronomers went back through decades of old records hunting for the cause. And in 2024, 2 separate teams landed on the same unsettling idea. The 6-year pulse was not coming from inside Betelgeuse at all. Something was orbiting it. Something was circling the giant once every 6 years, and as it swung around, it was dragging dust and tugging at the light, creating that slow heartbeat. There was a hidden companion star buried inside the glow of one of the most studied stars in the sky, and we had never seen it. But proposing it and proving it are 2 different things, and proving it was thought to be almost impossible. Picture the problem. You are trying to spot a faint candle sitting right next to a lighthouse from hundreds of miles away. Betelgeuse is so blindingly bright and so bloated that anything orbiting close to it is drowned completely in its glare. Hubble tried to find the companion and saw nothing. Chandra, the X-ray telescope, tried and saw nothing. For a while it looked like the hidden star might stay hidden forever, too close to the giant to ever pull out of the light. Then, in July of 2025, a team led by Steve Howell at NASA's Ames Research Center tried something different. Using a specialized instrument called Alopeke, mounted on the Gemini North Telescope in Hawaii, designed to cut through glare and freeze out the blurring of our atmosphere, they pointed it at Betelgeuse and looked right into the light. And there, exactly where the math said it should be, was a faint blue glow. For the first time in human history, after centuries of watching this star, we had seen the thing hiding inside it. So what is it? The companion has been given a name, Siwarha, and almost everything about it makes the story worse, not better. It is a young star, hot and bluish-white, and it has not even begun the main business of a star's life. It is not yet fusing hydrogen in its core the way our sun does. It is barely more than 1.5 times the mass of our sun, a small, fresh star, practically a newborn. And it is orbiting in the worst possible place. This is the part that is hard to picture, so sit with it. Siwarha is not orbiting Betelgeuse at a safe distance the way Earth orbits the Sun. It is orbiting so close that it is moving through the outer atmosphere of the giant itself. Betelgeuse is so vast and so puffed up that its thin outer layers reach out past where the companion travels. So this young star is not circling the giant, it is plowing through it. Every orbit, it carves a path directly through the tenuous outer body of the dying star, and astronomers believe it is dragging a wake of disturbed, glowing plasma behind it as it goes. Like the wake behind a boat, except the ocean is the atmosphere of a star 700 times wider than the sun. And that is what we were watching for 6 years. The pulse that made the whole world think it was hearing a countdown was this small star swinging through the giant, stirring its dust, beating out a 6-year rhythm we mistook for a death knell. But here is the cruelest part, and it is the detail that turns this from strange to tragic. Siwarha is doomed. That same closeness, that same plowing through the giant's atmosphere is slowly robbing it of energy, dragging it inward a little more with every pass. Astronomers think the companion is spiraling in, and that within a relatively short astronomical time, this young star will be pulled all the way into Betelgeuse and swallowed whole. A star that has not even started to live, falling into the body of one that is about to die. Now we go where no telescope can ever look, into the core of Betelgeuse, because that is where the real countdown is ticking. A star is a constant war between 2 forces. Gravity is always trying to crush it inward, and the nuclear fusion in its core pushes outward, and as long as the fire burns, the star holds its shape. For most of its life, a star fuses hydrogen into helium, and that is a slow, steady burn that can last billions of years. Betelgeuse finished its hydrogen long ago, so now it is burning the ashes. It fused its hydrogen into helium, then began fusing that helium into carbon, and when the helium runs low, it will fuse carbon into heavier elements still, then neon, then oxygen, then silicon. And here is the terrifying acceleration nobody warns you about. Each stage burns faster than the last, catastrophically faster. A star like this can fuse hydrogen for millions of years, but it might fuse carbon for only a few centuries. It can burn through its neon in about a year, its oxygen in a matter of months, and the final stage fusing silicon into iron lasts roughly a single day. After tens of millions of years of life, the last full day of a star like Betelgeuse is spent frantically fusing silicon into iron, and the moment that iron core forms, the star is finished. Because iron is the ash that cannot burn. Fusing iron does not release energy, it absorbs it. The instant the core becomes iron, the fire that has held the star up for 10 million years simply switches off, and nothing is left to fight gravity. What happens next happens faster than your mind can follow, so let me slow it down. The moment fusion stops, the core of Betelgeuse, an iron ball larger than the Earth, collapses. In about a quarter of a second, that core falls in on itself, and the outer edge of it crashes inward at nearly a quarter of the speed of light. The core is crushed so hard that its protons and electrons are mashed together into neutrons, and it slams into a wall of pure nuclear density and rebounds. A shock wave tears back outward through the dying star, and in a flash, the collapse becomes an explosion. For a few weeks, that single exploding star will shine brighter than the entire rest of its galaxy combined, releasing more energy in that instant than our sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year lifetime. That is a supernova, and Betelgeuse is going to do this. It is one of the few stars close enough and massive enough that we know with certainty how it ends. The only thing we do not know is when. And this is where we have to be honest, where the careful truth is stranger than the clickbait. Despite the dimming, despite the panic, the explosion is most likely not tomorrow. The best estimates put it anywhere from a few thousand to 100,000 years from now. On a human scale, that is forever. On a cosmic scale, it is the star already falling, just in slow motion. And because Betelgeuse sits 700 light-years away, there is a strange truth folded into this. The light takes 700 years to reach us, so it is entirely possible that Betelgeuse has already exploded, that it died centuries ago, and the flash of its death is already racing across space toward Earth right now, and we simply have not received the news yet. Every clear night you look up at that red star, you might be looking at a ghost. So let us say it happens. Let us say that tonight, or 1,000 years from now, the light finally reaches us. What do you actually see? Picture an ordinary evening. You step outside, and the red dot on Orion's shoulder is brightening, faster than any star should. Over a few days it does not stop. It swells into the brightest point of light in the entire night sky, then brighter than any planet, then brighter than anything except the moon. At its peak, Betelgeuse will shine roughly as bright as the half moon, but with one terrifying difference. The moon spreads its light across a wide disk. All of this will be crushed into a single, searing point. A star so bright, you cannot look straight at it, burning in the constellation Orion, and it will not be a thing of the night. It will be so bright that you will see it in broad daylight, a second beacon hanging in the blue afternoon sky next to the sun. For months, there will be two stars visible during the day. At night, it will cast its own shadows. Stand under it, and your body will throw a faint, sharp shadow onto the ground, cast not by the moon, not by the sun, but by the light of a star that died 700 years ago. Astronomers have said that for a couple of months, in a city with the lights off and a clear sky, it would be bright enough to read a book by the light of the supernova. Every human being on Earth will see it, every culture will record it. It will be the brightest stellar explosion witnessed by human eyes in 1,000 years, and for those few months, Orion will have lost his shoulder and gained a sun. Now the question your gut is already asking, if a star explodes with that much violence and we can read by its light, are we safe? Here is the honest answer. and it cuts both ways. A supernova is genuinely one of the most dangerous events in the universe. If Betelgeuse were close, this would be an extinction story. A star that explodes within roughly 30 light-years of Earth would strip away our ozone layer and bathe the surface in radiation, and it would likely end most life on the planet. That is a real thing that happens to worlds around stars unlucky enough to live near a dying giant. But Betelgeuse is about 700 light-years away. That distance is our salvation. It is more than 20 times farther than the danger zone, far enough that the blast which could sterilize a planet will reach us as nothing more than a spectacular light. The radiation will be harmless by the time it crosses all that space. A wave of ghostly particles called neutrinos will pass through your body and through the entire Earth without you ever feeling a thing. So we get the rarest gift in astronomy. We get to watch a monster die from a safe seat, close enough to see every detail, far enough that it cannot touch us. No human alive has ever seen a nearby star explode. The last one bright enough to rival this was in the year 1604, before the telescope was even pointed at the sky. When Betelgeuse goes, it will be the first time our species watches one of our neighbors die with modern eyes. So go back outside tonight and find Orion again. Look at that red shoulder and hold everything you now know in your head at once. A star 700 times wider than the Sun, born after the dinosaurs and already dying. A young companion buried in its glare, plowing through its atmosphere, doomed to be swallowed whole. An iron core somewhere inside it, ticking down through its final stages toward a collapse that takes a quarter of a second and ends 10 million years of life. And a flash of light may be already on its way that will one day turn that quiet red dot into a second sun. We spent 6 years watching the wrong thing, certain we were hearing a countdown, when the real story was hidden inside the glare the entire time. That is the part that stays with me. For all our telescopes, for all our certainty, the most famous dying star in our sky kept a secret companion from us for centuries, and we only found it because a false alarm made us look closer. It makes you wonder what else is hiding in the light. In all the stars we glance at and think we understand, Betelgeuse will die. Maybe long after every person watching this is gone. Maybe in a flash that is already crossing the dark toward us tonight. But when it comes, the whole world will look up at the same point of light at the same time, and for a few months, our sky will hold a fire that fell 700 years to reach us, and every one of them will be looking at a star that was already gone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.